Okay, so you're interested in Nextcloud, taking control of your data, wondering if self-hosted cloud storage is more than just a techie dream.
Yeah, it's a real option these days, especially with all the data privacy concerns people have. Nextcloud is a really interesting alternative to the big companies.
I've been checking out some articles and their website, and honestly, it's impressive. This isn't just about storage, it's a whole platform.
Yeah, absolutely. The history is actually pretty interesting. Nextcloud started as a fork of OwnCloud. The original founder, Frank Karlachek, spearheaded the whole
A
thing.
fork, okay, there's got to be a story there.
Oh, there definitely is. It comes down to a difference in philosophy, really. You've got the open source community, all about user freedom and data privacy. And then you've got the business side, focused on, well, business. In this case, they had different visions for OwnCloud's future. Karlachek felt like the company was choosing profits over their open source roots. So he went and created Nextcloud.
Wow, taking a stand. So how does this self-hosted cloud thing actually work? Asking for those of us who aren't exactly server wizards.
It's simpler than you might think. Imagine a private email server, but instead of just emails, it's for all your files and data.
Hmm.
You install the Nextcloud server software on your own hardware, even something small like a Raspberry Pi works. Or you can just rent server space online. Once it's set up, you can access your files from anywhere using apps or a web browser.
Okay, that makes sense. So I've got my own server, my data's mine, but how secure are we talking?
Security's a big deal, and Nextcloud takes it seriously. You've got two-factor authentication, adding that extra layer of security on top of a password. And for even more protection, there's end-to-end encryption.
End-to-end encryption, what does that even mean for a regular person?
Basically, your data gets scrambled so that only you, with a special key, can unlock it. Think of it like a super secure safe for your digital life. Even if someone got into the server, they couldn't understand your data without that key.
Okay, that's reassuring.
Yeah.
So my data stays secure on my server, but is this just like a fancy hard drive in the cloud? Or is there more to it?
Nextcloud is way more than just storage. It's a full-on collaboration platform. Think of features you'd find in Google Docs or Dropbox, but you own your data and you control where it's kept.
Okay, now you got my attention. What kind of features are we talking about?
One of the coolest is real-time document editing. Imagine working on a document with someone, seeing their cursor move, and edits happening live, just like Google Docs, except your data isn't in Google's hands.
So I can collaborate with others on my own terms. I like it.
Exactly. And it's not just document editing. Nextcloud has built-in video conferencing with Nextcloud Talk, Calendar, and contact syncing, even a Kanban board for task management. It's like having a whole digital office at your fingertips.
Wow, they really thought of everything.
They really did, and to make it even better, there's Nextcloud Hub. It brings all these tools together seamlessly.
That's great for people who like having everything in one place. But I bet it's even better for the tinkerers out there.
You're right. Nextcloud is incredibly customizable. It has a huge app store where you can add even more features. Want a built-in password manager? You got it. Want to stream media straight from your Nextcloud server?
Yeah.
No problem.
So many options. So let's say someone wants to try Nextcloud. What are their options?
You've got choices. You can keep it simple and sign up with a Nextcloud provider. They take care of all the technical stuff for you. Great option if you're not comfortable managing a server yourself. Or if you're more hands-on and want total control, you can host your own server.
So it's about finding the right balance between ease of use and control. I like that. What about the cost, though? Is this a free service?
Here's the thing. The Nextcloud software itself is completely free. Download it, install it, use it, all without spending a penny. However, there are costs associated with actually running a server, whether you're hosting it yourself or renting space.
Right, the server itself costs money. But it sounds like even with those costs, it could be cheaper than some of the big-name cloud services.
Yeah,
Especially when you consider the control and privacy you get in return.
exactly. It's about figuring out your priorities and seeing what fits your needs and what you value.
That's a lot to take in. We've covered how Nextcloud works, its security features, the impressive range of features and customization, and the different ways to actually use it.
And we've barely even scratched the surface.
There's more.
Oh yeah, remember I mentioned Nextcloud is open source.
You did, and honestly, that's something I'm really curious to learn more about.
We'll get ready, because this is where things get interesting. Open source means anyone can see the code that makes the platform work. It's like having the blueprints, but for a whole cloud platform.
So anyone can see how it's made. That's pretty transparent. What does that mean in practice?
It's huge for security. Think of it like having thousands of security experts all over the world, all of them looking at the code, trying to find any weaknesses.
Makes sense. More eyes on the code means fewer chances of security holes.
Exactly. And it also means there's a whole community of developers. They're constantly improving and adding to Nextcloud, adding features, fixing bugs, making it better, all out in the open.
So it's not just about the technology, it's about the community and this shared goal of making it better.
That's a big part of what makes Nextcloud different. It's about digital freedom, transparency, control, driven by a community that really cares.
That's powerful. But let's be real, if it's so great, why isn't everyone using it? Yeah, some downsides, right?
Yeah, right. There are always trade-offs. Nextcloud offers a lot, but it's not a magic solution for everyone. One of the biggest challenges for some people is the technical side.
You mean you need to be pretty tech savvy?
To some extent, yeah, especially if you're hosting it yourself. You're responsible for managing a server, and that takes some technical know-how. But even if you're not a server whiz, you can always use a provider. They can handle all the technical stuff.
So you can choose how involved you want to be? What about the costs? We talked about the server costs, but is the software itself actually free?
The Nextcloud software is totally free to use. Download it, install it, use it as much as you want, no charge. But, like we discussed, there are costs involved in running a server. Electricity, maybe a faster internet connection, those kinds of things.
Right, the hidden costs of running a server.
Yeah.
But even with those costs, it could still be cheaper than mainstream cloud services, right?
It definitely can be, especially when you factor in the privacy, the control, and just the sheer amount of storage and features you get with Nextcloud.
So to be clear, even though Nextcloud gives you more control and privacy, it does require a bit more effort, some technical knowledge.
There's a trade-off for sure.
Yeah.
But for people who really care about owning their data and are willing to put in a little work, Nextcloud offers incredible freedom and flexibility.
A lot to think about. We've talked about how Nextcloud is open source, the pros and cons, the costs, the whole philosophy behind it.
And we've just scratched the surface of what this platform can do. Nextcloud represents a bigger shift. It's about how we think about data ownership and control, especially in a world dominated by these big tech companies.
Yeah, it's more than just file storage.
Absolutely. Data is so important to our lives now. The question of who controls that data is more crucial than ever.
Feels like we're at a crossroads.
Yeah.
Do we keep going down the path of convenience, trusting big companies with our data? Or do we fight for control over our digital lives?
It's a question everyone has to answer for themselves. Nextcloud offers one way, a way to take back control. But it's not the only way.
It's about finding what aligns with your values, your priorities. For those who are ready to explore those options, where would you suggest they start? For those who are ready to explore those options, where would you suggest they start?
Well, there are a bunch of ways to test out the self-hosted cloud waters. You could start with a free account from a Nextcloud provider. That way you get to play around with the interface and features without having to set anything up yourself.
That's a pretty low-stakes way to try it out. What about for the folks who want to jump right in? The more adventurous types?
If you're feeling brave, try installing Nextcloud on a Raspberry Pi. It's a fun project, and it gives you a taste of managing your own server without spending a ton of money.
So there's a low barrier to entry, no matter your tech skills. But beyond just trying it out, what's the bigger picture here? Where do you see all of this going?
Nextcloud's part of this movement toward data autonomy. As we start to realize how valuable our data is, people want transparency, control, ownership.
Yeah, it's like we're taking back a part of our digital lives we didn't even realize we'd given away.
Exactly. Shifting the power back to individuals, away from these huge corporations. It's about deciding how our data is used and who benefits.
That's a powerful thought. And it's encouraging to see platforms like Nextcloud offering a real alternative.
It's bigger than just Nextcloud, though. It's about having this mindset of digital responsibility, asking questions, looking at our options, demanding more from the companies that have our data.
Taking control of our digital lives, basically. And it sounds like that starts with understanding what our choices are.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power, especially in this digital world. The more we understand about how our data is collected, stored, and used, the better decisions we can make about our digital lives.
This has been a really eye-opening deep dive into Nextcloud, from the technical side of self-hosting to the whole philosophy behind data ownership.
It's been great exploring these ideas with you.
As we wrap things up, here's something to think about. You've heard the arguments for data ownership. You see what's possible with platforms like Nextcloud. Now the question is, what are you going to do? How will you shape your digital future?